I am Shanna, and this is the Soul Frequency, where freedom, love, purpose, and mission grow. Let's go. Hello, lovely. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about 3D consciousness versus 5D consciousness and really diving into what this is. And the thing that fascinates me the most about this conversation and just about the study of consciousness and how we're evolving and how we are starting to understand ourselves better is that we seem to think often that things are outside of us, right? We seem to think that things like finding our purpose, that it's going to take us on a journey outside of ourselves to find our purpose, or that we are looking for even someone to love, like, where do I find this person out there, right? Or how do I find the next place I'm going to live or the next job I'm going to have? Like, whatever it is, it's just this sense of outside of me, everything exists. And I think the very first shift that needs to happen around 3D versus 5D is everything is really within you, that all the power, all the connection, all the truth, all the manifestation, it all resides within you. So it's less about going out there in the world and more about going in here and discovering the world within and discovering your own power. I call it your soul frequency, your energy that is in truth. And so let's explore today the differences between the 3D reality, which is probably the majority of the population, and the 5D consciousness shift that is coming onto the planet and coming through us, really a frequency that is awakening in humanity at this time. So the way this shift is occurring, there's a couple ways it's occurring. One of those ways is that we have a natural birth-death cycle as human beings. And so we have higher consciousness human beings coming onto the planet, and sometimes lower consciousness. And I'm going to just say even a consciousness that was more prevalent at another time passing on. So maybe you've had the experience where you, as a small child yourself, or you have a child, that they come in already kind of knowing certain things, right? Like, for instance, the kids being born today just really know how to get on a computer or phone and find their way around, where, let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that same awareness wasn't just within the general, population of kids. So it's really cool how through the generations, right, we come on with a certain knowledge for the time that we are supposed to be on this planet, right, that we have chosen prior to incarnating to be on this planet. There are really codes and knowledge and things that are within beings to bring about a certain consciousness of a certain time period, right? So let's say the average lifespan, I don't know, 70, 80 years, 90 years, whatever it is, that we come encoded with information for that time period. So as older generations transition, they are taking with them the coding from an earlier time period that is coming off the planet, right, in human form. And then the kids that are coming on the planet are bringing new codes, right, and new information on the planet. So the shift of 3D versus 5D is happening that way, for sure. It's also happening as an awakening through people. So doesn't matter if you are a teenager, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, however old you are, there is an awakening occurring, and there's activation points for that awakening. So you might be cruising along in your life and not even have thought about human consciousness, and all of a sudden an event happens in your life or something occurs in your reality that makes you for a moment step back and say, wait a second, what's this life about? What's my life about? What am I supposed to know? What am I supposed to understand? There's that moment of time where you start to wake up. And on that journey, it really matters what we choose from that day forward. Do we choose to keep awakening ourselves, or do we choose to keep kind of turning away from that? We have choices, and choices are so powerful when we're talking about switching from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness. But again, this is not something outside of us. This is something awakening within us. So what can we do to awaken it? This is where it really comes to, how willing are you to know yourself? How willing are you to take a look inside and discover new things about yourself and discover, what it is and the reasons why you came here, right? What it is to be human and the reasons why you chose this life. And that's really where we start to activate our soul mission, our soul purpose. A lot of people use those words interchangeably. They're a little bit different. Our soul purpose is to be in joy, right? To be in higher frequency emotions such as love and enlightenment and joy and care and all of those things. And that is our purpose, right? Like that is purpose, to come into this life as a creative being and to experience these higher frequency states of being. Soul mission is a little bit different. This is the mission and the reason that you came. So this is the more active doing aspect of what you want to create here on the planet and what you came to create on this planet. So sometimes that's a loving relationship. Sometimes it's tied to a vocation. Sometimes it's tied to supporting people. It's almost always going to help humanity in some way, whether that's helping your neighbor, helping your family or your family of origin or your family that you create. It's something having to do that contributes to the lives of others, either indirectly or directly. So that's the difference between soul purpose and soul mission. So we always want to be in that frequency of joy. And as we switch over from 3D to 5D, this is a process that's awakening within. And it's a process that has everything to do with your emotional state of being, the way you perceive the world, right? So let me give you an example of this. If we are cycling in negative thoughts, right, all the time, then our state of being is going to be of a lower vibrational frequency. It's going to be more aligned with 3D. If we are in higher states of being, experiencing emotions such as joy and excitement and enlightenment and love, then we're going to be resonating at more of a 5D level. So you can look across your life and say, where am I most of the time? Like, what am I resonating with the majority of the time? Really important question to ask yourself, and to understand that this kind of transformation, I want to call it, or even transmutation of old energy is happening. And it's an invitation for every single person to go on the inner journey, to look within themselves and to start to activate this higher frequency line of emotionality and thought and perception. And I'll tell you a little story that really kind of encapsulates 3D versus 5D. So imagine that you grew up on a street called Main Street, and all of the restaurants that you went to were there, and all of the housing was there. Everyone you knew lived on Main Street. As far as you were concerned, nothing else existed but Main Street. Like, that's it, right? There's just Main Street. That's my whole world. So the way that you think about Earth would be how you think about Main Street. And all of a sudden one day you start getting curious, like, is there anything else out there, right? Like, people on Earth might, have years ago been like, are we alone? Is this the only planet? A long time ago, the Earth was flat and people didn't know what it looked like. And they were just, branching out to see if there was other land anywhere to be found when they would set out on the ocean. And so it's kind of like going, I wonder, so it takes one person to start going, I wonder if there's something else out there. So let's say that's you, and you start wondering, is there anything other than Main Street? So you go to the edge of Main Street super courageously, right? Because most people are like, you're crazy. Don't go, don't do this. So you go to the edge of Main Street and you're like, all of a sudden you look and you see this hill. You've never seen a hill before. It's like, wow, what is that? And you step off Main Street and you see the hill and you're like, I'm going to climb up this thing. Like, I got to see what's up here. You start climbing up the hill and you get to the top and you sit up there and you look out from this higher perspective and you see that there is so much more than Main Street. There are all these other streets. And in that moment, you go from 3D to 5D. It's perception. It's perception. The vantage point from where you're sitting is now different from when you were on Main Street and could only see Main Street. That is the perfect example of the inner shift in perception that happens from 3D to 5D. It's nothing outside of you. It's just an inner shift of perception. And you come down off the mountain and you come back to Main Street and you're like, you guys, there is so much else out there. You have to come see this. Like I've seen other streets and it's not just Main Street, and like, what's on these other streets? And people are like, no, that can't be right. People don't believe you. People are like, really? No way. You deal with then the cognitive dissonance of other people's perceptions, right? This clash of perceptions between 3D and 5D. And maybe you've been through this in your life. Maybe you've been at a family dinner and you have introduced a topic that causes a clash in perception. Like you've got, aunts, uncles, cousins, I don't know, parents, family members who are like, what are you talking about? Like, no way, it can't be what you're saying. That clash in perception is 3D and 5D, right? Not on the same frequency, not being able to meet and have understanding. It's like two signals crossing each other like this, right? And neither one is able to resonate with each other. So when you have this higher perception, when you have aligned with 5D energy, sometimes people can't understand it. Sometimes they just can't resonate with it. It's okay. It's all good. This is what the changeover process is. And understanding that it's simply a perception shift, then the question becomes, how do I choose to shift my perception? That's really the question we should be asking, right? 3D exists, 5D exists. These are frequencies we can align to, right? They're like streams of information that we can kind of dial into. And you can dial into both of them, right? Simultaneously, you can connect with 3D and know what's going on there. You do that very well as a human being, right? We are typically born into the 3D reality, and you can connect to the 5D reality. So this is not about going somewhere, right? And physically going somewhere. This is a perception and an inner ability to attune yourself to these frequencies. So hopefully that has been extremely valuable in understanding the work is not about going out there in the world. The work is about going inside, right? And understanding how we're perceiving the world and understanding how frequency works and how as human beings, we can align to different frequencies. I will see you guys back here next week for more amazing videos.